Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live webinar. My name is Sally. I'm the Client Relationship Manager at Great Place to Work. I'm thrilled to have our special guest today from EK Kanu, Bahrain, the Head of People and Culture, Mr. John Matthew. We are going to delve into a topic that is becoming increasingly crucial in the modern workplace, which is work-life balance and cultivating a healthy culture. Welcome, John. I hope you are as excited as I am to have this conversation today.
Thank you, Sally. Very good morning. Absolutely excited since the day we had the chat that we will be talking on this topic. So all set when ready.
Before we kick off, I would like to tell you a little bit of EK Kanu Company. They have a dedicated workforce of 2,600 professionals, as they call them. They excel in pioneering innovative business industries, including automotive care products, IT and security, management consulting, and other businesses. They also excel in building a relation of trust with not just their customers, but their employees as well. Mr. John, the floor is yours to tell us more about EK Kanu and what you do.
Thank you so much. My name is John Matthew. I'm the head of people and culture at Ibrahim Khalil Kanu, a very reputed business in the Kingdom of Bahrain. Personally, I've been in the Middle East since 2007, worked across 7 family businesses. So here I am in 2024 with Ibrahim Khalil Kanu. Somehow it's my destiny that took me to family-owned businesses, but it's been an interesting career, a lot of dynamics, and it's the biggest thing that amazes me is the legacy all these family businesses have created in these countries since a lot of years, many of them spanning across 70 years. As a company, we are, you already mentioned some of the areas we do in business, but primarily we are into automotive, deal with a lot of amazing brands like Toyota, Lexus, Volvo, McLaren, to name a few, and absolutely amazing workforce we got here, very diverse workforce with a lot of Bahraini colleagues and expats as well working together to achieve the vision we have set onto.
To start, let's discuss the relationship between work-life balance and employee outcomes. We know that employees who can manage their professional and personal lives, they tend to be more engaged and more motivated. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do you believe work-life balance impacts employee productivity and overall job satisfaction?
Thanks, Alif, for that question. Since the time we had a chat about the topic, it was just interesting. I was just pondering back on the term work-life balance. Yeah, I've been working since 2003. All right, so close to 20 plus years now. And I was just reflecting back on whether we even thought about a concept like work-life balance in the past. uh, I also wanted different perspectives on the concept of work-life balance. So spoke to a few seniors in our organization, a few team members, even spoke to my dad, who's retired now, but what they felt about work-life balance. And And the common theme that emerged from a conceptual perspective was that previously, when people tied up with an organization to work, there would be work and there would be life. People would work from a time to, let's say, 5 p.m. and then they go home. That's it, right? And they would push work out of their minds for the rest of the day and focus on other things, family, etc. So there was a clear split between work and life at that time. Um, why are we discussing this topic these days a lot more, isn't it? There must be something that's happened across the evolution of work that's led us to this situation. So from my perspective, I think it's just because the distinction that used to be there might not longer be there. Okay. That there is work and there's life. Probably there's a an interlinkage which is more stronger now, and it's integrated more into life, isn't it? I've talked about how many years I've been working, but I think we spend a majority of our lives working. So, which means it's not just a job, it's not just a career, but work seems to be life as well. I think it's high time we realized it, and it's applicable to all of us. I think if we look back at it, so that's my perspective on the concept. That is it about really splitting work and life now, or is it about really sitting back and smartly thinking on how do we blend it together so that we can get more out of it? Yeah, so that's my current perspective on the concept of work-life balance.
Yes,
Uh,
I think
what
we both agree on this widespread misunderstanding about work-life balance.
So you mentioned about employee productivity and job satisfaction as well. Um, Again, I think it's very important to take the two separately, and really look at why employees are working. What are we expected to give to organizations, isn't it? At the end, we talk about KPIs of a business, etc., profitability, revenues, bottom line, big KPIs for businesses, if these are profitable businesses. What leads to that is employees working and performing, right? So, from a people perspective, the focus is performance, and if we take a step back, all the outcomes that an employee, all the initiatives and thoughts that the employee brings to work is what contributes to performance at the end of the day, right? Uh, Now, when we talk about stress, when we talk about burnouts that employees are facing, and that's where I think there becomes a link to performance, yeah, because it impacts their focus, impacts their concentration at work, and ultimately you end up not contributing to the company's overall objectives. Yeah. So productivity is impacted because of what's going on in the employee's mind. Yeah. uh, we also talk about the fact that leave your personal lives outside when you come to work, or leave your personal self outside work. Is that really possible? Because I think there's a big connection between personal lives and the fulfillment of that to how employees are motivated at work. So that's a big impact to productivity. Yeah. Now, if we talk about satisfaction, I think the last 3 to 4 decades, so many studies are being done on the impact of work performance on job satisfaction, and the environment and culture on job satisfaction. But I think it's been proved that employees who feel their work and life are balanced are prone to be more happier, satisfied, and probably more engaged at work. Really. Um, Great Place to Work and many other organizations, I think, who do a lot of research on engagement, understand the difference between satisfaction and engagement, isn't it? It's not just about keeping employees happy, but the key word here is engaged, isn't it? Are you really unconditionally committed to your organization, right? And that's what satisfaction, and that's where satisfaction goes to the next level, right? So we don't stop at satisfaction. We need to make sure employees are engaged. So there's a strong correlation between work-life balance for sure, and how people perform at work, and how happy they are really, and satisfied at work as well.
Right, totally agree. And going back to that widespread misunderstanding that you've mentioned earlier about work-life balance, that many people think it means dividing time equally between work and personal life, but it's actually more about finding flexibility or prioritizing tasks as needed. What are some common misconceptions you have encountered regarding work-life balance in your organization?
I have a lot of chats with our ground level workers, really, be it our gardeners who come to water the plants that you see behind, or our security guard who stands outside and gives an amazing welcome to our customers, or our office assistants who take care of our offices every day. It's really good to. It, some of these conversations are really interesting because what do we talk about, right? We don't talk about strategies. I think we talk about what connects both of us, probably what connects, what's important to them, right, in their personal lives, etc., their family. Um, and for a lot of our colleagues who come here, they've left their families in their home countries and they come to work here as well, right? So one of the misconceptions we feel or we hear is that employees who have families living with them, there's a bigger priority for work-life balance for them compared to employees who live alone. Um, but through these conversations, I think that's totally not the right way to think about it. I think anyone who works in an organization spends 8 to 9 to 10 hours in a day at business. This topic is very important. All right, every one of each one of that person needs their well-being, their personal pursuits. What are they looking for after work? What keeps them happy and charged up and at peace of mind, so that they can come in back the next day to work and contribute to their optimum levels, right? Because that's got an impact on business and your organization as well. So for us and our organizations, I think more than 60% of our employees are blue collar employees. A lot of them have their families back home. Maybe we make sure that there is some kind of an engagement activity to keep them up and running throughout the year. And we see that the one thing that connects a lot of these employees is sports. Yeah. Uh, uh, Not a particular sport, but depends on which place you are from and your interests, etc. But what we as a company have been doing for the last many years is really give a lot of emphasis to sports events in our organization. And and the positive side is our leadership takes a lot of interest in that. It's not the employees themselves planning out something and managing, but we have a range of sports events, be it basketball, cricket, football, and some paddle as well going on throughout the years, so that everyone's involved. And we are always amazed when we go for these events to see the turnout of our employees and the participation. It's just they all come to have fun, really. um, Outside these events that the companies organize, our employees, particularly if they're living in our company accommodations, etc., we make sure they've got space to play badminton or football, etc., or at least cricket in some places. So, as a company, we provide those facilities and space because you don't always need to wait for the organization to organize some of these events. So that's one of the misconceptions, that the link between those who have families versus who are living alone. I think that's a big misconception. The second is, I think, the concept of one size fits all. I totally don't believe that we offer a one size fits all plan or a scheme that benefits all our 2,600 employees. I think those days are gone where you would have one size fits all. Today, we really need to. I talked to you about the one-on-one conversations we have. Where there itself, you can see that every individual is different. Really, what is interesting for somebody might not fit in with another employee. If I organize a football tournament for somebody, there is a section of people who don't play football. Okay, for them the concept of relaxation or engagement might be totally different. As a company, I think it's very important to understand and speak to these people more so that you can tailor some of your initiatives as a company to these individuals. So one size fits all will not work in today's times. And what else? Work-life balance. Yeah, there was an interesting chat I had with an employee that about the four-day working week concept that is emerging in many companies, and the repercussions of that. So, does work-life balance mean less working hours? Will that sort out the problem? How will your businesses run? What about productivity and performance? So that balance needs to be understood and researched as well. So from my perspective, I think work-life balance doesn't mean work less in a day and spend a lot of time outside work. That's going to be an interesting thing to think about as well. So I think these two to three elements are some common misconceptions that I hear from people. It's not my own theory at this point.
Now, I would like to delve more into the opposite of what you just mentioned, the challenges or the hurdles that the employees encounter. It could be from heavy workloads to maybe constant connectivity problems. There are numerous challenges, but in your view, what are the biggest challenges employees face in achieving this work-life balance? And what practical steps do you think employees can take to improve it? Could be strategies such as setting boundaries, effective time management, maybe seeking support. A lot of strategies make a significant difference, but I'd love to hear any strategies you have found effective.
Yeah, that's there are challenges. Really, there are challenges, and I mean one of the biggest challenges because of which I feel this topic has emerged as more uh, in the center of discussion of conferences and webinars like these is because of technology for sure. Yeah, that divide that used to be there many years back of once you're done at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you're cut off from work. I think has been really bridged or impacted by this thing, our smartphones probably. Um, because I think for a lot work, this is work, isn't it? Our phones are where a lot of things get done, and once you leave the physical premise of your organization, you are actually carrying work along with you, not just the phone, probably your laptops and computers as well. Now, this might be true for more white collared employees, etc. But we carry a lot of work back home, and that I think doesn't put a full stop to work at any point in time. Secondly, particularly after pandemic, the organizations have got a lot more into virtual working, working from anywhere. It's a great strategy for work-life balance, but can also be counterproductive where uh, your organization is always connected to you, be it night or day. And particularly if you are working for an organization who has a presence in multiple geographies and time zones, you might be prone to more of your working hours getting mixed and your normal time of the day when you take a break, etc. So a proper definition might not be there. So I think technology has really blurred some of those boundaries that we used to have. Another challenge, and this is the old one, probably comes from bosses and your managers in terms of unrealistic expectations. Um, I know of toxic environments and organizations where I think expectations are just very unrealistic for from employees. But this starts right from leadership, I think, and then drills down. So a lot depends on quality of your managers as well, and how realistic realistically they set expectations in terms of and manage workloads. That's purely an individual element that we need to consider. What else? From an employee's perspective, uh, it's a bit cultural also. I've seen throughout my experience where the attitude or the habit of saying no. Okay. It's a bit cultural as well. You don't see that. In certain cultures, you don't say no. You take on whatever is being offloaded on you in terms of work. And what I've seen during my career is, I think when you take everything, you end up getting a headache of that. At some point, your productivity flops, your quality of work gets impacted. How do we make employees understand that it is not a bad thing to say no if it's realistic and if it's logical, and you manage the work within the timeline, within the boundaries, with quality. I think it's okay to say no. But primarily, that has not been part of many organizations I've heard about. But there are places where employees really, I think, manage their time well as well. Um, what else are challenges? I think from the recent challenges that we ourselves are getting geared up for, and a very talked about challenge is the generational challenge. Okay, for the I keep saying, for the first time you got five generations working together. Now, you talk about work-life balance. I mean, I was just researching a bit on when was the punch-in system invented. Okay, and I found out the first clock-in, clock-out timers were made in 1888. Okay, and particularly during the Industrial Revolution, they were used to manage people's time and attendance in the 1900s. 120, 25 years down the line, I think there are many organizations who are in that belief that work gets done when you are physically based in an office. The pandemic proved us wrong, isn't it? And suddenly we found that work could be done from anywhere. But it's also generational, and as organizations we are also exploring on how can we manage the expectations of these generations, particularly the new generations that are coming into the workplace and forming a majority of your workforce, um, who are expecting flexibility of work and working styles. So these are there's a lot to be discussed and researched within that. Many organizations are changing, but I think these are the few of the challenges we ourselves have been gearing up, and I think in due course we will be able to manage this better. Currently, what we are doing is we are spreading more awareness among our managers and our leaders in terms of what to expect in terms of some of these challenges. Um, so those are some of the challenges I talked about. In terms of, you asked about some of the practical steps. Of course, I think you mentioned time management. For me, when I talk to my team members, I think one thing I always mention is set priorities. Really, in a day you get 100 tasks coming to you. Yeah, um, you try to manage all of it. I think that has an impact on your productivity and quality. You might end up spending extra hours of your day, etc., trying to sort everything out. Time management and managing clear priorities is very important. That question that you ask your client on by when are you expecting an outcome, I think becomes more important. Yeah, we assume that everything's important, but it might not be the case. Very important that employees, and if there are any potential employees watching this, I think it's very important to ask that question. That's something I've learned from my experience as well. We got amazing tools now to manage our workload. We had an amazing session on Microsoft Teams the other day, and all the new features that come across with that. Yeah, we are trying to see how we can optimize. There's some amazing tools that help you manage your calendars effectively, your tasks, your planners, um, and manage expectations with clients. Really, so that has to be used more of. I feel. Um, at the workplace, I would definitely recommend, and we have our coffee chats, we have our water cooler conversations. 100% recommended. That has to be part of any organization. The time to unwind. I saw, I read somewhere, I think in certain organizations, they are setting up spaces where you can take a power nap now. I remember when I used to work in India long back, we had something called the afternoon siesta, where businesses would start at 9 and close at 1. We all go home, take a break, take a nap, and then come back at 4 or 5 and work till 8 or 9. Um, Talk about work life balance. But the afternoon siesta used to be part of the work culture actually. People would go, sleep, and then come back to work the same day. Obviously, since 2007, after coming to this region, I haven't been through that. But there are many organizations who still who are trying to manage that as well. Um, Talking about sleep, I think in schools, teachers always talk about great sleeping habits, healthy habits, exercise well. Um, but we stop that discussion after you pass out from school and college, isn't it? The moment you are in an organization, very few discussions happen around sleep, very few discussions happen around exercise and healthy habits. With the topic we are talking about, and with webinars like these and conferences highlighting this area of stress and burnout, I think these discussions have restarted now in the workplace. Yeah, the importance of sleep. There are so many countries and cultures where there is a culture of overwork, and people are deprived of sleep. Um, I think it's beneficial for short term, but long term, your health takes a toll. Yeah. So I highly recommend uh, everyone to who's watching this to spare some time to exercise. I know it's easy to say walk for half an hour, etc. Um, but I'll just share an interesting statistic. Okay, I've saved it here. I'll just open it up to share. Yesterday I was just trying to understand where do we use our times, okay? And I thought about, let me just check how much time we spend on our phones, okay? So I did some searches, etc. And a common theme I came out was on the internet was the time spent using smartphones annually. I'm just trying to link the 30-minute walk or exercise to time spent on work on smartphones. So latest research shows that the average person spends 4 hours and 37 minutes on their phones every day. 4 hours and 37 minutes on an average. Yeah. If you convert that into a week, that's over 1 day per week, or 5 to 6 days per month. And if you look at the year, on an average, people are spending 70 days looking at their phones. Okay, 70 days looking at their phones. I think that's a scary statistic, and talking especially about work-life balance, we have to reflect on that component uh, and see how much of that 70 days can we allocate to probably a mix of exercise, healthy habits, sleep. Today morning, I was watching a news article, a news item on TV, where people are moving back from smartphones to dumb phones, as they call it. But more interestingly, the newer generations, there's patterns emerging where people are moving from smartphones to dumb phones. I don't know the percentage yet, but I think that's very important to manage, yeah, before it gets out of hand.
Well, thank you for sharing those really effective strategies, especially the siesta thing. I've read days ago that siesta is more common in Spain rather than other countries. And while they were doing the research of comparing the siesta exercise in Spain uh, with other countries that do not do this exercise, really shows how effective it is. Because other countries have like maybe 30-minute or a 1 hour lunch break. They go, they eat fast, and they come back to work. They are not productive as they should be compared to the organizations who go with the siesta exercise. And I think we both agree that this all is related to one main pillar, which is leadership. We all know that leadership, it sets the tone for organizational culture. It could be from encouraging flexible work times, leading by example, for instance, having open communication. But how can managers or how can leaders foster a culture that supports work-life balance?
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with you, Sally. I think it starts from the top, right? We use the term leading by example. I'll talk about our organization first, and then probably personally about me and some of our colleagues in our organization. Because from a leadership perspective, our organization at Ibrahim Khalil Kanu, I think naturally they are very supportive of sports events. Okay, as an example, we do a lot of corporate social responsibility activities across Bahrain since many years. I think there's a big commitment of the company to the country as well and the community. But particularly, we do a lot of sponsorship of sports event, support to sports event, young kids coming up in sports. In fact, we sponsor the national team of sports in many events in the Olympics um, and at local levels, football, basketball, etc. So our leaders take a lot of interest in even racing, Formula One, etc. We take a lot of interest naturally from the top. So what happens is, as an organization, we are seeing our leaders do that. Um, Personally, I think during the pandemic, I started. Uh, I became more disciplined and started following a particular sport. I play badminton. Okay, since the last 3.5, 4 years, if time permits, we play almost every day since the last 4 years. The impact it has had personally, I think I won't go into specifics, but sports really helps you. Yeah. Um, so I cannot advise my team to follow a healthy life or work-life balance or play sports if I'm not um, following it myself. Okay. Um, Across our company, we have so many amazing examples of people who don't just play sports, but they're amazing at it, quality. We got an office assistant. He showed me the picture of his cupboard once with trophies and medals. We just speak a lot about his stories. So, from leadership, I think it's very important to scan our organization and see where are such hidden gems hidden, examples of which we can take and recognize as well. We are not just be there and continue doing that, but recognize it. we got amazing people who play football, paddle, uh, Ironman, and so on. So, as leadership, very important to model what we are talking about and set clear expectations as well in terms of managing workload, etc. I think it's very important to discuss our own leadership style with our teams so that expectations are laid clear. Talking about flexible work arrangements, uh, again, we go back to pandemic times where I think many of our organizations just adapted to remote work and flexible hours, compressed work weeks, etc. But uh, the culture of an organization has to be that you are not dependent on people to spend time in an office only, okay, and work just while you're in office. I spoke about this earlier, but how do we unconditionally make people committed to the company? How do we not have to tell them to spend some extra hours during weekends? Okay, how does that happen unconditionally? Is a culture we need to build. Yeah, because if your boss is watching your time, the employee will also watch their time. Okay, and that's that going forward as the work environment and the dynamics at work become challenging, I think that will be a big challenge. So, flexible work is going to be very key in the coming days and years with organizations that have not yet adapted to this. Yeah, you read in the news of companies having flexible work, etc. That's a very small percentage of the global workforce. Yeah, of the global work organizations. Um, Very important for managers to have those personal chats I've been talking about. Yeah, it's worked for me over the last many years. It works if an employee understands that their line managers know their personal situations, needs, and workload. Okay, it's very important to encourage that open dialogue whenever we can, and not just wait for formal performance reviews, etc., to discuss that. Um, as organizations, I think we talk about respecting individuals. We need to respect boundaries of a time and uh, I mean, sometimes we get calls from leaders very rarely at odd times, and the first thing they say is apologies for disturbing you during your personal time. And I think that's a big statement to come from our leaders, yeah, where they understand and respect that personal time after work. Yeah, so that's very important. And finally, I think I already mentioned the fact is really recognizing such individuals and maybe rewarding employees who are committed to great uh, well-being practices or sports or some achievements outside work in this area. I think that's very important. While I was stationed in Dubai many years back, we were part of the first ever Dubai Fitness Challenge. I remember which Sheikh Hamdan had organized, and I think for a month we were all tracking and doing a lot of activities for the month of October, I think, and it became a habit for many actually. So those are some good initiatives as an organization to be part of as well. Yeah.
Now, moving on, since you are familiar with a Great Place to Work, you took the survey, you got certified, and I'd love to hear your experience with this, by the way. I think we both agree that it's essential to measure the impact of work life balance initiatives. How can organizations measure the effectiveness of these initiatives? And how has Great Place to Work survey, from gathering insights and tracking improvement, helped your organization make it possible?
Definitely. It's our first experience with Great Place to Work. So we are pretty proud actually to have been certified as a Great Place to Work. In the Kingdom of Bahrain, we've always been seen as a great place to work. It's a great, amazing legacy business since many, many years. But now, when you walk into showrooms or offices, you see that amazing red cube saying "Great Place to Work." Um, it's and coming from a neutral perspective, right, of your organization who don't really know us, and for our employees to voice that opinion, right, where 88% or 89% of your employees vouch to a third party saying this is an amazing place to work. I think it's a very big statement for us, and we take it very personally, and we are proud of it. The second thing is right in our first cycle to emerge in the top 20 great retail companies to work for in the GCC. I think that was an amazing moment for us. We are based in Bahrain, and the company from Bahrain to come out in the Middle East and Gulf, and to showcase some of the good practices we do here. Um, that was definitely a defining moment for us. Um, it was a great initiative where I think all of our employees came together. We got some amazing glimpses and snapshots of how happy our employees were when we celebrated the fact that we got certified. So that's our it's our first experience. So thanks for being our partners with this and for providing that framework that helps us uh, understand and I think get a stamp saying what we felt is right actually. Yeah. Um, and I think surveys like these and pulse surveys, etc., these are opportunities for us to gauge whether the things we do are impacting or not. Okay, it's enough to say me having a chat with one of our employees and he's happy, but I think pulse surveys will definitely help you understand whether some of these initiatives are working or not. Um, Frankly, I haven't done any analysis that really pinpoints our engagement levels to those football tournaments that we do, but hopefully get some data analytics around it. But I think naturally it has an impact. It's contributing somewhere to that score or number that we look every year from an engagement perspective or uh, the great place to work scores that we got. So that's definitely an important way for me to measure and understand. Yeah. Secondly, I think the line manager chats very important for us to really get feedback from individuals on what works for them and what doesn't. We do that on a regular basis, and I think overall, see, we have the bigger KPIs like turnover, productivity, absenteeism. There's a lot of variables that contribute to this, right? Um, One of the factors is definitely work-life balance. So for us, other than Great Place to Work, we have our own annual engagement program that we open up to employees every year to voice their opinions. Year on year, since the last many years, work life balance has come out as one of our topmost drivers. Yeah. I've always been happy to see that part at the top, which is why I thought I'll actually speak in today's session because unless we are doing a great job at it, I don't have a right, I'm not an authority to even touch the subject. So I was pretty proud that the work life balance statement comes as one of our topmost drivers on engagement, and for sure that has an impact on productivity. Yeah. So I think that's thanks to that partnership with you. We're super happy to get certified. Thanks.
Congratulations, you deserve it, and thank you for your emphasis on Great Place to Work survey and its importance on measuring the work-life balance initiatives. John, I'd love to hear your perspective on this. The focus on mental health, the rise of flexible and remote work, the personalization of employee experiences, they're all gaining traction nowadays. And it's important for organizations to stay ahead of these trends, to basically remain competitive in the market or supportive of their workforce. But if we look a bit towards the future, what emerging trends in work life balance should organizations be aware of?
We've been following since the last few years. Definitely, this topic's picked up quite significantly among organizations of the world. Um, it's emerged. It's really emerging in this part of the world. Um, I've been seeing and talking to colleagues in other organizations, even in the kingdom, on this topic, and a lot of organizations have started now introducing specific programs supporting mental health and well-being of companies. A lot of initiatives around it. I think it's one part launching such initiatives and probably applying for an award, etc. But uh, I think we have to go to the grassroots level, make it more simpler, is what my personal feedback is, and really have the employee because you see, you got a workforce that signed a contract with you, correct? As an organization, you are in charge of them while they are in your organization. You are accountable and responsible for a lot of individuals and human resources and their families. It's a massive responsibility we take up when we sign that contract of selecting or recruiting somebody. Um, so it's a big responsibility that we understand what's going on in people's minds and really creating channels for them to share some of these. Yeah, like I said, one size doesn't fit all in today's time. Amazing stuff many companies do in terms of helplines, availability if you need to talk about a personal situation, etc. That's, I think, wonderful. These are some wonderful initiatives. A big thing, again, from a work life perspective, I told earlier that your personal lives have an impact on your work, right? Uh, there's a big trend going on I think globally from a financial perspective, and the financial knowledge and how employees manage their personal finance, okay, outside work. It's not a company's responsibility to get in that, but you see a lot of people falling into the debt trap and credit cards and frauds and loans just because some of them have never been taught how to manage that part of their lives, right? This is an area we've also identified. We are preparing to raise more awareness among our employees on how do you manage your finances outside work, how do you stay out of debt traps, etc. Because I think one of the biggest reasons for stress among employees outside work is always uh, personal finance, right? Loans. There are so many employees who might be taking heavy loans from their home countries to get a job outside their country. So I think it's very important for someone to raise awareness and just help them with that part is something we are personally looking at. We've not started it, but I think it's coming up in soon in the coming months. A bit more of flexibility with technology. After the pandemic, we all are now connected more. All our employees have email IDs and they're connected on Teams, etc. So, how do we stay in touch, basically? Yeah, not from a encroaching the personal workspace, but making it more flexible for them to generate productivity. Like I said, we've been raising a lot of awareness among our managers and leaders on how do we manage this change in generational differences that are coming to work. Yeah, it's okay to say millennials have so and so traits, etc. But when five generations are working together, I think it becomes very important that we, as managers and leaders, understand and manage it. In leadership, there's a model called situational leadership. I think there should be a model, or there might be a model where you have a situational leadership around generations as well, and because otherwise uh, your turnover will increase for sure in the coming years. Uh, I think a stat I read was millennials change 3 to 4 jobs by the age of 24. That's really scary. Yeah. And when you got an organization with 65 to 75% of your organization are millennials, you really need to adapt and partner with them on how can we retain you better as an organization. The concept of lifetime employment is really deteriorating. It's I think it's becoming a thing of the past. So generational difference is very important. It's an emerging trend, and I think every company should just make well-being and work-life balance uh, as part of their holistic strategy. I think it's not something your employee relations team should be thinking about, but I think it has to be embedded into your organizational strategy in the years to come. So these are a few points I think and emerging trends that companies really need to be sure of.
Well, thank you for sharing those valuable insights and your emphasis on Great Place to Work survey and its importance on cultivating a healthy culture for all the questions. It's been a pleasure having you with us today, John, and I really, really enjoyed this webinar with you. To our audience, thank you for joining us for this insightful webinar on work life balance. We look forward to our continued collaboration in the future and stay tuned for some upcoming exciting webinars. Please do reach out to us on greatplacetowork.me if you'd like to be part of it to talk about workplace culture. Thank you for your time, John, and have a
Thank you,
good day.
Shirley. Wonderful having the chat. Thank you.